Yo, what's up, guys? It's Noah here, back to break down Sunday's MLB slate, Sunday, July 26th. We're going to cover this 11-game slate on Draftkings, also talk about the 15-game slate over on Yahoo, go through pitching, hit on all the pitchers I like for today, the guys that I feel like I'm going to be targeting in my lineups. We'll take a look at some hitters I like as well. Then we'll talk about some stacks I'll be going to, and towards the end of the video, I will give some home run calls, guys that I predict will potentially hit a home run that I would maybe target in my lineups. But yeah, before we do get started, guys, as always, I would appreciate it if you would hit that like button down below. Make sure you subscribe to the channel as well if you are new. I will be uploading MLB videos daily now that the MLB has returned. I will also be covering NBA when it resumes in about a week, I believe, Thursdays when the NBA returns. I'll have NBA videos up as well, so I'll be getting both MLB and NBA videos up daily. Going to have a ton of content coming out to this channel. I know I went a long time without uploading, but now that sports are back, I'm going to be uploading daily again, getting up as much content as I can. So I would appreciate it if you would hit that subscribe button down below. And if you want more content from me, I do have stuff over on Patreon that you can check out. I do give core plays over there, updated core plays. If anything changes, as I do more research, I could potentially change my mind on certain players. So I give updated core plays on Patreon. I also am going to start writing an article for MLB. I did this for NBA when it was going on. I posted an article Monday through Friday, very in-depth. Usually it's anywhere from 8 to 10 pages long, highlighting all my favorite plays on the slate, going in-depth on why I like them. You can get access to that on Patreon. We also have a Discord chat you can join where we're talking through all the sports, MLB, NBA, NFL. When it gets here, we'll be talking to all those sports over in Discord. So if you want to get in the Discord chat, you can check out the Patreon, see all that I have to offer over there. Link down below in the description. But without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at Sunday's MLB slate. We'll start off at pitching like we always do. At the top, we'll go 10K and above. We'll hit on some of these guys at the top, the guys that I have the most interest in. So just looking at these 5 guys above 10K, I think 3 really stand out to me, mainly 2. I'll include Blake Snell in there, but I think Zach Greinke and Trevor Bauer are the 2 guys that really stand out to me at the top of the pitcher-player pool today. We'll start off with Zach Greinke. I do like this spot a lot for him at home against the Mariners. Now, he is the most expensive pitcher on Draftkings. We'll talk about Trevor Bauer in a second. I think choosing between Greinke and Bauer, I do prefer to go to Bauer. But you'll hear me say this a lot this year. For some of you that have always or that have played on Yahoo before, or maybe if you're new to Yahoo MLB, their pricing is usually always very soft. It's really easy to pay up for both of your pitcher spots. So that's something I usually always look to do on Yahoo. Rarely do I go cheap at pitcher unless there's just a guy that's really cheap that I think should not be or is just really underpriced, should not be where he's priced. Usually I'm paying up at both these spots. And we'll start off with Zach Greinke. I do like paying up for him on Yahoo at $48. This is a really favorable spot for him against the Mariners. I liked Lance McCullers a lot on Saturday, and that worked out pretty well. I believe he finished with just around 20 Draftkings points. Could have had more if he got the win, but I think the Astros, or I can't remember if the game was tied or not when McCullers came out of the game, but I don't think he got a win Saturday. Maybe he did, but I don't believe he did. Finished with around 20 Draftkings points, though. Was very solid, and now you get Zach Greinke in the same matchup against a Mariners team that is just not that good. They were 4th in the league in terms of strikeouts versus right-handed pitching, 4th most at 25.8%. We're just going to take a look at last year's numbers because we don't really have any sample size to go by this year. Last year, the Mariners were not a good team. They didn't really make any changes to their lineup. It's the same lineup they rolled out last year. So we should expect them to struggle again. They're going to be probably one of the worst teams in baseball. We see it Sunday. I mean, their run total was low. Saturday, I think they had like a 3 or 4 implied run total. 3.2 implied run total for the Mariners on Sunday. Heavy favorite again are the Astros. Zach Greinke, a minus 308 favorite. Feels like a lock. He can go 5-6 innings here, get probably 6-7 strikeouts, come out with a win, and finish with around 20-25 Draftkings points, just like Lance McCullers did. At 10-9 on Draftkings, we're going to talk about Trevor Bauer. I do prefer him. I think Bauer gives you more strikeout upside than a guy like Greinke. If you look at Greinke's K rate last year versus lefties, struck out 21.4%, versus righties 24.7%. We'll hit on Trevor Bauer in a second, but his K rate overall last season was 27.8%. does get more strikeouts, had a over 30% K rate to righties. So that's why I give the edge to him, just choosing between the two. But talking about Yahoo, where you can really spend at pitcher, I do like going with Greinke, and then we'll talk about Trevor Bauer in a second. Really just don't see how Greinke fails in this spot. I think 15, 20 DraftKings points almost feels like his, or 15 to 20 fantasy points almost feels like his floor. Could potentially get more if he's got his good stuff going. So do like Greinke, and then Trevor Bauer, definitely my favorite pitcher on this slate overall. 10,100 on DK, love him there. $47 on Yahoo, one of my favorite plays over there as well. Just such a good spot here for Trevor Bauer, facing this Detroit Tigers team that I said it in Saturday's video. You're going to hear me say it a lot rest of the season. I mean, this Tigers team is going to be one of the worst teams in baseball. I would not be surprised if they finish with probably the worst record in baseball. You look at their lineup, and it's just really not good at all. Miguel Cabrera used to be a great hitter, but towards the end of his career, just not the guy that he used to be. Nico Goodrum, talented young guy, but Scope, CJ Cron, these aren't guys you're worried about. Christian Stewart has some power, but not a guy you're afraid of. Candelario, Cameron Maybin, Austin Romine, Jacoby Jones. It's just not a good lineup. Low run total here. Trevor Bauer's a heavy favorite, minus 230. Really, it's the matchup. I mean, this Tigers team is just so bad. Led the league in strikeout rate last season at 26.6% versus right-handed pitching. They were towards the bottom of the league in batting average as well. I mean, 235 batting average, which was fourth worst in the league. Their ISO was towards the bottom of the league as well, second to last, 149 ISO. Really giving up, or really showing no power versus right-handed pitching. Just such a good spot for Trevor Bauer. I know last year he was kind of up and down. Wasn't the elite pitcher that we had known him to be, especially when he got traded to the Reds. We saw, like, when he was with the Indians, I mean, this dude would just go out there and throw 120 pitches every start, feel like he would get double-digit Ks every start. Then he got traded to the Reds. Things kind of went downhill, but still had a solid season. Finished with around a 27% K rate, like I said earlier. Not sure what his ERA was last season. I think it was around 3. But regardless, hard not to like Bauer in this matchup. Just such a good spot. 10-1 on DK, $47 on Yahoo. Definitely one of my favorite pitchers today. I do expect him to be popular, but pitchers are usually not. I don't really worry about ownership when it comes to pitchers, unless I think a guy's just like egregiously owned. A lot of times, chalky pitchers will be in the winning lineup. Now, chalky stacks, I think you can definitely get away from or find a way to differentiate. But chalky pitchers, I'm fine eating pitcher chalk if I think it's a good spot, and I think Bauer gets a really good spot here. So definitely a guy I like paying up for. Blake Snell, I think, is fine against the Blue Jays. I'm a little bit worried about Blake Snell, though. He is coming back from injury. We know he can always get limited at times. Like we've seen the Blue Jays or the Rays will pull Snell at like 75, 80 pitches, especially on a short season like this. You're going to see guys get pulled early. I doubt you see any pitchers throw like 110, 120 pitches this season. Like, it's just not going to happen. Obviously, when you get into the postseason, you'll see that. But I think it was Saturday night or Friday night. I can't remember. Justin Verlander was cruising. I think he had only allowed 2 runs, had 8 Ks through 6 innings, and he got pulled with 73 pitches. And I don't believe he was hurt either. It was just managers aren't going to push their starters more than they need to with it being a short season. So probably going to get maybe 80, 85 pitches from Snell. Against the Blue Jays, I could see him having success here, but the Blue Jays don't have a bad lineup. They have a lot of young talent, 2 great young hitters in Bo Bichette and Vlad Jr. They got Kevon Biggio, Luis Gurriel, solid against left-handed pitching. Travis Shaw, not the best versus lefties, but Randall Grichuk has power versus lefties. Teoscar Hernandez has power versus lefties. I think I'd just rather go to Greinke. I think I feel more safe with Greinke. Maybe Snell gives you more strikeout upside, but when you factor in the matchup, I think I'd give the edge to Greinke. And then overall matchup, strikeout upside, I think Bauer is head and shoulders above both guys. Corbin against the Yankees, that's just not a spot I want to go to. Corey Kluber against the Rockies. Kluber's just been so up and down recently, especially last year, I believe, or the year before with the Indians. I mean, he just had a terrible season. With a new team, with the Rangers, maybe he can do something, but that's going to be a wait and see for me, especially with him being $10,300, more expensive than Bauer. I just don't want to go there. But then getting down to this mid-range, looking for potential SP2 plays. There is a guy I like quite a bit here. Carlos Carrasco at 8,600, I think definitely stands out against the Royals. I do like this spot quite a bit for Carrasco. We look at the Royals last season in terms of strikeout rate versus right-handed pitching. They didn't have a ton of Ks. They finished about middle of the pack in strikeout rate, 23%, but they weren't the best offensive team. You look at their batting average versus right-handed pitching. I believe it was towards the middle of the pack or towards the bottom of the league, if I'm not mistaken. But let's see here if I can find Kansas City. Where's Kansas City at? I think they were like middle of the pack. Yeah, 14th batting average versus righties last season. Looking at their ISO, their power versus righties, I mean, they were towards the bottom of the league. Don't have a ton of power in this lineup. We'll pull up their lineup real quick just so you guys can see. Said this a lot last season. It's kind of the same this season. Their top 3 and 4 hitters are pretty solid. Whit Merrifield, Alberto Mondesi are definitely 2 really good hitters. But then it kind of drops off a little bit. Jorge Soler is a good hitter, does have a lot of power, but he will also strike out a lot. Salvador Perez will strike out. Alex Gordon's a good contact hitter, but doesn't have much power. And then once you get past Alex Gordon, it's a lot of easy outs here, 6 through 9. Ryan McBroom, Maikel Franco, Nicky Lopez, Bubba Starling. These just aren't hitters you're worried about at all. I would expect the Indians come in with a high implied run total today, given that it's going to be a bullpen game for the Royals. Royals do have one of the worst bullpens in the league. Carrasco should be a very heavy favorite. He's another guy that's coming back from injury, so that's a little bit of a concern, kind of like Blake Snell. And he also had like a rough season last season. I think he did make a few starts last season, but mainly worked out of the bullpen. And he was definitely up and down. Like I said, didn't have the best season. We'll look at his numbers from last season. Did give up some power, 347 WOBA to lefties, 364 WOBA to righties. But the strikeouts were still there. 27% K rate to lefties, 29% to righties. The power is a concern. Did give up a lot of home runs, 2.17 home runs per 9 to lefties, 1.9 to righties. But I like to see that the strikeouts were there. He still has a near 30% K rate to both sides of the plate. There are some Ks in this Royals lineup. And at 8,600, he's coming in at a pretty good discount compared to some of these top guys. And I think Carrasco could easily outscore guys like Kluber, Corbin, even Blake Snell. I could see Carrasco outscoring. And when you factor in the guys he's priced around, like in the mid-range, Kenta Maeda against the White Sox, tough spot, really good White Sox lineup, adding Edwin Encarnacion and Yasmani Grandal just makes that White Sox lineup even scarier. Luis Robert, one of the best young talents in the game. Don't want to go to Maeda. Freddie Peralta, not the best spot against the Cubs. I believe Wynn's going to be blowing out in Wrigley as well, so that might be a game you actually want to target hitters in. Ronaldo Lopez against the Twins, I don't really want to go there. I could see using Mitch Keller against the Cardinals, but still I'd rather get to Carrasco at 8,600. So that's kind of what I'm looking at the mid-range and at the top of the pitcher position. In terms of value plays, if you want to go cheap here, there is one guy I like. I think Vince Velasquez at home against the Marlins is definitely in play. Just a very favorable matchup, bad Marlins lineup, a lineup that doesn't have a lot of power, a lineup that will strike out as well. Led the league, or was towards the top of the league in terms of K rate versus righties, I believe. Finished top 10 in terms of K rate versus righties, 24.9%. Good start, or good spot for Velasquez. Never know what you're going to get from him, which always is concern. Like, Vince Velasquez could go out there and throw 6 shutout innings with 8 Ks, and I wouldn't be surprised. He could go out there and get blown up in 2 innings, and I wouldn't be surprised. Like, makes him a little bit risky, but at 6,900, he's cheap. There's not a lot of value at pitcher that I really like today, so if you're going to play a cheap guy, I think it would be Velasquez for me, but I think that's it for pitcher. Let's go ahead and hit on some hitters I like. We'll talk about some stacks, some teams I'm looking to stack as well. So just starting off with hitters, mainly a team overall, I think the Indians are in a really good spot today. Mike Montgomery, I believe, is expected to start for the Royals, but I don't think he's going to go very deep into this game. This is probably going to be a bullpen game from the Royals. We'll see Montgomery maybe throw 2 or 3 innings, and then they'll bring in their bullpen, which is good for the Indians because the Royals do have one of the worst bullpens in the league. But just looking at Montgomery here, a lefty facing this really good Indians lineup that has a lot of guys that hit left-handed pitching well. Jose Ramirez, Lindor, Santana, Reyes all have a lot of power versus lefties. Specifically, Francisco Lindor, probably one of my favorite plays on today's slate. I think he's very underpriced on both sides. He's only $19 on Yahoo. I liked him a lot over on Yahoo yesterday. going right back to him today. And then on DraftKings, you have Francisco Lindor at only 4,500, which feels like a little bit of a steal, just given how good of a spot it is today for the Indians. Doesn't really matter, lefty, righty. Lindor's going to have the platoon advantage because he is a switch hitter. We'll take a look at his numbers, though, just versus lefties and righties last season. Versus lefties, 258 batting average versus righties, 297. So he was a little bit better versus righties, but still solid numbers from both sides of the plate. Doesn't strike out much. Looking at his ISO, 177 ISO versus lefties, 263 versus righties. He'll probably face Montgomery once, maybe twice, so he'll probably face a lefty twice, and then depending on who comes out of the bullpen, could have a couple at-bats against righties. Did get a lot of hard contact versus lefties and righties, 38.6% versus lefties, 43% versus righties. I mean, it's hard not to like Francisco Lindor, no matter who's on the plate. This guy is just so good, one of the best hitters in the league, has a ton of power, can steal bases, just gives you so much upside, and facing a pitcher in Montgomery and a bullpen with the Royals really feels like an excellent spot for Francisco Lindor. So at 4,500, I like him a ton here. Definitely one of my favorite plays from this Indians lineup, and I think this Indians team makes for a really good stack today. I expect them to be popular. They'll probably have a very high run total once it's released. Recording this video on Saturday night, so that run total's not out yet, but I imagine it comes in the high fives, maybe low sixes. So that's going to be very appealing, looking to some of these Indians guys. And Francisco Lindor, I like a ton here. And then another team I do want to talk about, another team I expect will be popular, but it's hard not to like them. The Red Sox, 6.6 implied run total against Wade LeBlanc. I mean, Wade LeBlanc is just not a good pitcher. This should be a spot where the Red Sox just go ham. I know they were in a great spot on Saturday against Alex Cobb, against Alex Cobb, and that didn't really work out. Hopefully people have some sour taste in their mouth, though, and they are afraid to go back to the Red Sox. I will not be afraid. I think they're a great stack again. Looking at Wade LeBlanc's numbers last year, versus lefties, gave up 2.86 home runs per 9. Versus righties, gave up 1.84 home runs per 9. Gave up a ton of bombs to both sides of the plate. Doesn't get many strikeouts either. I mean, his K rate versus lefties last season was 23.8%, which is decent, but, I mean, just above average. Only a 15% K rate, though, to righties, so doesn't really strike out righties at all. And there's so many good righties in this Red Sox lineup, specifically JD Martinez, specifically the main righty you want to target from this lineup. I know they did lose Mookie Betts, which was a really good right-handed hitter in their lineup. I guess that was a mistake saying the Red Sox have a lot of good righties. They have really one dominant right-handed hitter. Jose Peraza's actually gotten off to a really good start to this season. We will talk about him in a second. I think he makes for a great value, but this spot for JD Martinez, I mean, this feels just about as good as it gets. He's really expensive, but I think he's worth the price tag today. We'll get to him, or we'll talk about him later in the video when we get to my home run calls. I mean, I think JD Martinez is in about as good of a spot as it gets to hit a home run tonight. So really like him a lot on both sides. He's really expensive on Yahoo, but hopefully that'll keep some of his ownership down at $24. He's $5K on DraftKings, which honestly, for this matchup against a terrible lefty in LeBlanc, feels like a good spot, or feels like he's underpriced. I mean, when you have guys like Charlie Blackmon, George Springer in a really good spot, but like Blackmon against Kluber, I think I'd rather definitely target JD Martinez. I mean, Stanton facing Patrick Corbin. I know Stanton matches left-handed pitching, but Patrick Corbin, a really good pitcher. Between Stanton and Martinez, I think I'd give the edge to Martinez today. His numbers are insane versus left-handed pitching. I just want to talk about this real quickly. Looking at his splits from last season versus lefties, 404 batting average, insane. His K rate, really low, only struck out 18% of the time. High batting average, high ISO as well, 482 ISO, a ton of power versus left-handed pitching. Let me see if I can find how many home runs he had versus lefties last year compared to versus righties. So versus lefties, 19 home runs from JD Martinez, 17 versus righties. So, I mean, he shows a ton of power from both sides of the plate, but that ISO, man, 482 ISO versus lefties, really insane. Gets a ton of hard contact as well, 44% hard contact, really no soft contact. When he's putting the ball in play versus lefties, he's hitting missiles, he's hitting line drives, and that's what we want. That's what you look for in MLB DFS. You want to roster hitters that can put the ball in play, that can make hard contact, and that's exactly what JD Martinez does. So Love him in the spot versus Wade LeBlanc. I think he's one of the best pay-up options in terms of my opinion at hitter today. And then going back to that Red Sox team, talked about Jose Peraza. I think he gives us a lot of value. Only $2,700 on DraftKings. Exceptional value play in my opinion. And then over on Yahoo, you have Jose Peraza at minimum salary, $7. So right now he is projected to bat fifth, I believe, for the Red Sox. Yeah, he's projected to bat fifth, and assuming he does bat fifth or even towards the middle part of the order, that makes me very interested in Jose Peraza. Gonna get probably 4 at-bats, potentially 5 at-bats, depending on how many runs the Red Sox can score today. He's gotten off to a really good start to the season. I do believe he had a really big game Friday night. Can't remember what he did Saturday. I don't think he did much Saturday, but had a solid game Friday night. Peraza's never been a hitter that just goes out there and just hits bombs. I mean, he's a guy that puts the ball in play. He can steal bases. At $2,700, though, given this exceptional matchup against LeBlanc, it's hard for me not to like Jose Peraza as a value hitter, especially on a slate where I want a pay-up pitcher. I want to get Trevor Bauer, Zach Greinke, Carrasco in my lineups. I need to find some value at hitter, and that's where Peraza comes in hand. He's playing for a team with an insane 6.6 implied run total. This is a spot where you expect the Red Sox to score a ton of runs. Peraza looks like a really good value. He might come in pretty popular, which I guess is somewhat of a concern, but I'm fine playing him in my Red Sox stack. You can definitely get difference elsewhere. I know people say you shouldn't stack chalky teams, but I'm fine stacking chalky teams as long as you get different elsewhere. Whether that means rostering guys at the bottom of the lineup, whether that means rostering some of the hitters that may come in at lower ownership, like lefty. I could see Rafael Devers coming in at lower ownership today, so putting him in your stack just automatically makes you somewhat contrarian. Or even just rostering a lower-owned pitcher or a lower-owned couple of one-offs, that's going to make you contrarian. So you can still stack the Red Sox today. Just find a way to get different in your lineup, whether that's with pitching or with one or two of your other hitters. You can look to get contrarian there. But yeah, love the Red Sox here. Love JD. Love Jose Peraza as a value as well. But that's kind of what I'm looking at just for pitching or for a couple pitchers and hitters I like. Obviously, there's a ton of more hitters I could hit on, but I don't want this video to be too long. My video on Saturday was 37 minutes. I want to try and keep these MLB videos between 20-25 minutes. So we kind of covered all the pitchers I'm on today. We talked about a couple of bats I like. Looking at teams I'm going to be stacking, definitely talked about them already, but the Red Sox and the Indians, I know they'll be somewhat popular, but I really like the spot for both teams. I think the Reds make plenty of sense against Spencer Turnbull, especially over on Yahoo if you're playing over there. You got some really good value with Jesse Winker projected to lead off, only $9. Joey Votto, homered again, back-to-back games. He's only $11 on Yahoo. Mike Moustakas is only $14. The pricing on these Red guys did drop down over there, so I do like the Reds quite a bit. I think the Astros are in a great spot against Yusei Kikuchi, especially the righties. So Springer, Altuve, Bregman, exceptional plays today if you can find a way to fit him in. Even though it's lefty, I still like Michael Brantley a good amount, especially on DraftKings. He is very cheap on DraftKings, only $3,300. Yuli Gurriel, Carlos Correa, also getting the platoon advantage. I think the Astros make a ton of sense. And then definitely keep an eye on this Cubs and Brewers game. Right now, it does look like there's going to be 11-mile-per-hour winds blowing out to center. It's going to be humid as well, 91 degrees. So we're going to have great hitting weather in Wrigley Field on Sunday. And if you don't know, wind is very impactful at Wrigley Field. Whenever you have winds blowing out to center at that ballpark, it makes a big impact. And we'll probably see that once run totals are released for this game. I wouldn't be surprised to see both teams come in with a 5+ implied run total. Choosing between one of the two teams, it's obviously a much more favorable matchup for the Brewers facing Tyler Chatwood. So I like the Brewers stack quite a bit. I think guys like Sogard, Yelich, Hira, Justin Smoke make plenty of sense. Pretty much this entire lineup, specifically 1 through 7, I like a lot. I'm going to be very interested to see what their run total is. Even if it's 4.5 or 4.6, I wouldn't be afraid to stack the Brewers here against Chatwood. We know Chatwood, he can get wild at times. He can walk a lot of guys. He'll put guys on base. And someone like Christian Yelich can obviously drive those guys in. Yelich, one of the best hitters in the league. I think this is a fantastic spot for him. We'll talk about him in a bit when we get to home run calls. I think he might be in my home run calls for today. But if you're playing the Yahoo slate, this 7 o'clock game between the Mets and Braves is included in their main slate. I do like the Braves as a stacker against Rick Porcello. Porcello is just kind of a name at this point. Not really a guy I'm afraid to stack against, especially given how good this Braves lineup is. I mean, they just have so many good hitters that can get to Porcello, Acuna, Albies, Freeman, added Marcell Ozuna, who's a very solid hitter that has a good amount of power. I do like the Braves quite a bit. I think they're going to come in at pretty low ownership on Yahoo, so I like them quite a bit there. Julio Urias, if you're playing Yahoo, I think is a solid option as well. A solid pitching option at $38. I forgot to mention him. But yeah, I think we kind of covered everything for stacks. Definitely like the Brewers as sort of a lower owned stack, and I think this game just in general is going to be very interesting to target for bats given the great hitting conditions. Talked about the Astros. I like them. The Reds, the Red Sox, and the Indians. Mainly the Red Sox and Indians are probably my two favorite stacks on this slate. There are some other teams you can target, but I don't want to just name every single team. I usually try and keep it around 4 or 5 teams mainly, just depending on how many games there are. So the 4 or 5 teams that I just mentioned, those are the teams I really like to stack today. You could obviously look to teams like the Twins, the White Sox, but want to keep it between those 4 or 5. So yeah, I think we covered everything. Stacks, hitters, pitchers, kind of talked about this slate, broke it all down. Nice Sunday slate. Always love these slates, man. Just waking up, making lineups, watching baseball all day. That's really just what it's all about. That just makes life so fun when you can just chill in the house, watch sports. I really enjoyed it the last few days. Just kind of missed it the last 3 or 4 months, not having sports on TV. Really sucks, but now that we've got it back, man, just feels like life is good again. I'm making videos on YouTube again. I'm just putting up content, which I love doing. I love putting up these videos for you guys, providing you guys with the best content I can. If you do appreciate these videos, as always, guys, I would appreciate it if you'd hit that like button. Leave any comments down below. If you have any feedback, want to leave anything, just feel free to leave that down below in the comment section. If you have any questions, you can leave that down below there as well. But yeah, guys, best of luck tonight, or today, I should say, tomorrow. I'm recording this video on Saturday, but best of luck. Hope you guys win some money. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Check out some of the content I have on Patreon. Follow me on Twitter. And yeah, guys, best of luck. Peace.